I'm going to introduce this afternoon's presenter, Bill Tiller. However, when he comes up, I'd like to have you be absolutely silent. Absolutely silent. You'll understand why in a moment. Bill, why don't you come on up? Not even Bill knows why I'd like to have you be silent, but come on up. Here, you actually, we won't be here very long. You just kind of hold that. Is that right? Okay. Now, I told you over our 3 lunches that we were going to have that we have a dedicated audience. They're coming from, in some cases, around the world and around the country. They're awesome. An awesome audience, that's right. And what I'd like to have you do, just to know who you're going to be talking to this afternoon, is this is the way you do it. See, actually, I'm going to hold this for you. I want your right hand free. You take your right hand. And you do this, and you say, "Are you awesome?" And you go like that, okay?
Are you awesome?
Yeah! Just in case you didn't know.
Got it.
See, we have surprises for you. I didn't tell you about that, did I? Anyway, I wanted you to connect with Bill just for a moment here, because he'll be here the rest of the day. Breaks. He'll be here for lunch. He'll be here for dinner time. Anybody like to have dinner with him to ask questions after he makes a presentation this afternoon. So I wanted him to see your face and introduce you in that fashion. Also, Lee, you wanted to say something about his book.
Yes, I do. I'm about 3/4 of the way through the book right now, and I highly recommend it. This is an unsolicited commercial, by the way. If you really want to understand subtle energies, Bill has written a marvelous book and explains subtle energies. I think they have a great deal of meaning in the way we're trying to interpolate this understanding so that we can make better sense and explain it better to our patients. So I highly, highly recommend his book.
What's the name of the book? The name of the book is entitled Science and Human Transformation.
Yeah, look back there.
Subtle Energies, Intentionality and Consciousness. There are some brochures for it back there. I brought some books in case you wanted to purchase them. I have a couple more cases in the car. Yeah, well. And we'll talk about it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Bill. Thanks. We're exploring the use of intention in these seminars and on these tapes, and nowhere is the use of intention more dramatically displayed than the actual bending of a physical item like metal. And what you're about to see now is Marla Brucker as she demonstrates the bending of spoons and forks. And what I want to show you here, although you will see her do it on the tape, this is the actual fork that she bent. You just won't see a close-up of it. But if you'll notice it's bent all the way around 360 degrees twice. And look at all those tines that are bent. She found, with her process, a 30-second window where her intention actually made this very malleable, and that's what she was able to do with it. You know, Marla's just a small lady, and I can assure you that I could outdo her in a arm wrestling contest, if you will. But there's no way I could do this. I can assure you that. I mean, even trying to unbend this, I'm not sure I could do that. I can unbend it a little bit, but nothing like this, and nothing like she did this. You'll watch her do it. You won't see a close-up as you've seen here, but you'll watch her actually do it on stage. So here it is. Anyway, we're here because, by popular demand,
yes.
And because the idea of bending spoons with intention fits so perfectly in with today. Not that we have Bill Tiller here, but the next 2 days has to do with intuition, intention, and things like that. What better way to launch this off and to have some discussion on spoon bending, which you do basically with your intention?
That's right.
Okay. Go ahead. Why don't you just take it from there, and we'll spend a few minutes. What we're going to do is spend a few minutes here discussing it and doing whatever you want to do, and then if you're interested later on, if we can, we'll try to go buy enough spoons for everybody and have everybody practice it. Does that sound about right?
That sounds great. Did you notice that there were no spoons there at breakfast today?
Oh, was that true?
I don't know. I don't know if there weren't. Anyhow, there were. There you go. I must have gotten there too late. I'm not a cause of this. Okay. Basically, when you are working with spoon bending, you have to, number one, have that intent. And that's why this is so interconnected today. You have to want it. You have to desire it. You have to will it to bend. The other thing you have to do is connect with the spoon or the fork that you're holding. Feel it. Feel that vibration. Some people might feel a vibration as you hold the fork or spoon. Some people just might have an emotional experience with it. And when you do, you command it to bend. So in a moment, I'm going to have half of the group command it to bend. And then, after commanding it to bend, you have to let go. And I'm not talking about dropping the fork or the spoon, but you have to let go of trying. And once you let go of trying, then it is bendable. It's amazing.
May I interject? You will hear before this day is over, before this next 2 days are over, that the way to make these techniques I'm going to be describing for you work is it has to be done through you, not by you. And what you say is when you have to let go, that's another way about it. You have to let go of your stuff. You got to let it work through you.
That's right.
And that's the only talent that's really necessary. That's the only trick that's really necessary to doing this. And for some, it's an easy thing to do. For others, it takes a little practice. But anyway, I want to interject that because that's so
fine.
So nice and so.
When I teach it, I'm with a group of people that might not be believers as of yet. This group is incredible. I assume that most of you are believers. And even if there is some doubt or skepticism, that's still okay. You have to desire it. You have to want it. The other thing I teach when I'm talking about spoon bending is how we transfer energy. So what is really important is for me to connect with this fork or spoon, transfer my energy into that. Feel that vibrational energy, that connection between the metal and myself. When you have that, and you also dip into an alpha state, which is just a relaxed state, you're better able to connect with the molecular structure or the temperature, the vibrational frequency that's going on, changing the molecular structure in the fork or the spoon.
And that's what you do with your intention, you change the molecular structure.
That's right, because I'm connecting with the vibrational frequency. When you do that, because my frequency is slowing down, when I enter into an alpha state, I'm slowing this down, the frequency in here, which changes the structure, which softens it. Now you might see that in the beginning I might put a little bit more pressure on it, and then all of a sudden it loosens up like putty, and you can begin to turn it and twist it. You might have a 30-second segment to do that in, and that's it. It might last longer and even shorter. So it really depends. So I'm going to work with you guys today because I teach this to groups, and when I teach this to groups, we're all doing it together, and I do it with them. When I do it alone, I'm not with the group. I've never done it alone in front of a group.
I was going to mention that this is the first time you've ever done it in front of a group. So
That's right.
It's a unique experience for you. So to the extent it interferes with you or whatever,
I'm not sure yet. We'll have to see.
We'll have to unload that to begin with. But anyway, go ahead.
So what I'd like to do is have half of the room, in a moment, I'm going to tell you when, to just, in a low voice, say, bend it, bend it, bend it, bend it.
We have a question over here.
I have a suggestion
Yes.
in that it'd be interesting to see if those who can't bend, which could be any of us, would have a reversal if that could be corrected. I don't know about belief.
Wouldn't surprise me, Don.
I mean, if we could just hold that, maybe we could change that part to it.
Let's see what it is without trying that.
Yeah,
and
just a little
and then we'll see what happens.
experiment.
Okay. The other thing that is really important is for us to bring energy into it. Either energy of light, where we bring our own white light or sun, any way that you want to perceive that energy. And you bring it into your head and bring it down into your arms and into your hands. Now, Don and I were talking yesterday about how he has done it. He does it where he holds that energy in his hands and then bursts it through and releases it into the fork or spoon. I just bring it right down. Everybody does it differently. Some people you might find rub it. I find that it's not necessary for me. Either way, whatever works for you works.
I watched Uri Geller years ago do this, and what he would do, he would have spoons, but people would bring up spoons from home, and he would just do this.
And it would
he would just keep doing this, and just a little light pressure, and then all of a sudden, like that,
It's really amazing. So, if I can have this part of the room just say, bend it, bend it, bend it. Then I'm going to go into an alpha state, and then this part of the room, in around a minute or two, I want you to start laughing.
Is there a particular cue that I can give them so that, because they don't know when a minute or two is?
I don't know. I'll let
Well,
you know.
could you give them a cue? So
Yeah.
you'll just...
I might just nod my head.
Okay.
Okay? Now, if anybody has a fork or spoon there, you can do the same. Again, the laughter is a distraction for us to let go. Now, if someone in the audience is bending it, and I will work out with you later as well, if someone is bending it, I want you to scream out, it's
We have a
bent.
knife over there.
I would not work with a knife. 2 reasons. Number 1, it does break. And number 2, the serrated area, I'm not going to be responsible. I wouldn't work with a pen either because it's hollow inside, so it will snap more so. A key is good.
You may never be able to use it again.
That's right.
Workshop 2 is bending it back.
Bending it back. There you go. So those of you that have a fork or spoon, just hold it at the bottom, or you could hold it up here. I would suggest having the bowl face you, and when you are ready to bend it, grab it like this and bend it. Some are satisfied with bending it down. I would love to see you move it around like this. And if you have a fork, begin to work with the prongs. So I suggest that you close your eyes and just quiet down a bit. Take a couple of deep cleansing breaths. And see a light. If you have a light that you can see, or just feel an energy within yourself. And bring that energy from your head or from your heart down into your arms, down to your hands. You can either hold on to that energy for a moment and then release it into that fork or spoon, or allow that energy to transfer into that fork and spoon. Really connect with that piece of metal that you're holding. As you relax your body, relax your mind. And if the group over here can just start saying, bend, bend, bend. And you, if you're holding a fork or spoon, say it as well. Bend, 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 bend. Visualize it, see it happening, softening. Bend, it's called form. Forming. Bend. Bend. You could say it louder if you want. Bend. Because what you're doing is you're connecting it and then you're commanding it to bend. 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 Louder. There you go. Bend. There you go.
Bend. 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 Bend, 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 bend.
If you guys could laugh, that would be great. Bend it now, guys. Start bending it. It's bendable. It's bending. Bend it. Bend it. Bend it, guys. Bend it. Bend it. Bend it. Just bend it. Okay, open up your eyes. Good. We have some people that have bent it. Good job. Good. Good, good. And then as you practice it, once they start laughing, that distracted me from you guys. And that's when I was able to just bend it.
What I would like to do, if we could, is to have people who have bent it tell us their experience, what it was like. Could we have a mic? I know Richard back here bent it. Can you tell us what your experience was?
I wish I could. I think at a certain moment, I was in the spoon.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started feeling soft.
Good job.
And then all of a sudden, I heard you say, bend it. And it just moved.
That's exactly what happens.
Could I ask you something? You are probably strong enough to bend it anyway, I presume. Was there a difference that you could perceive in its bendability?
Oh, absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Plus, my hands are weak from arthritis.
Oh.
So it just went.
Yes.
I just moved my hands and it just spent.
Okay.
Good job.
Well, not everybody was able to do it on this first round, but who else did it? Could you raise your hand? Could we talk over here to Brian, for example? You're trying to bend the microphone?
What I did is I tried to collect and move my energy through my hands, and then I became one. I wasn't in the spoon, but I tried to become one with the spoon. So it's like I was first holding it, and then it was just...
Yeah, there's some interference someplace.
Then it was just, then I became more connected with the spoon, and I tried to imagine our energy patterns as being the same. I also visualized the spoon being bent, and then when it was time, I just bent it. I used a certain amount of force. What I'd be very interested in doing is if someone would give me a spoon that isn't bent, and if I could just bend it.
You can't have my spoon.
Would somebody give him an unbent spoon?
Is it from...
Is it the same kind of spoon?
Yeah, it's the same spoon, so I can have a sense of... Yeah, I mean, I can bend it kind of easily, but I did not use as much pressure when I did it before. It wasn't as much force.
Okay.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
The energy in this room is very intense. It's very high. Now, later at lunch or another time, see how much more force you will have to put on that spoon or that fork in bending it.
I almost thought it was a little bit like a karate thing, like, you know, breaking boards. When I used to do karate as a teenager, kind of thinking through it, imagining it, and then just letting myself go and just get caught up in it. But it definitely took more force now than it did when I was doing it the first time.
Thank you. I feel guided to tell a little story, if I may, at this point. It's on the same point, but I don't know why I'm telling you this. It's just I'm guided to do it, so I'm going to do it. I put out an email a while back, an inspirational story called what was it called? The Flower Inside the Coconut. And this was a lady that I saw that had cerebral palsy, and it was really, I mean, she had to sit like this, and her mouth was like that, and she would drool saliva out of it. And she was at this big seminar, trying, you know, it was a self-improvement type seminar, and hardly anybody would talk to her. You couldn't talk to her, you know. She was kind of by herself. But one night we're going to break boards. I mean, real boards. They were inch thick, like this. And what you were supposed to do with that was with your intention, not with your brute force, but with your intention, that somebody would hold a board up. And what you'd do is you would put your intention past the board, and you'd like that. And I did it, and I was really surprised. I crashed right through it. The thing just broke with my intention. Now, I did get a little, you know, bruise on my hand, etc., but it was really quite surprising to me. And everybody was doing it except this one gal, Sally. And she really wanted to do it, but she'd go up there like this. I mean, she'd go, no harder than if you were knocking on a door, not even that hard, because she didn't have the strength. She'd just go like that. And she hit it, can't tell you how many times, and nothing happened. And so they had her go to the side with somebody else who was encouraging her. He's standing there, you can do it, Sally, you can do it. We were all going, oh, you give it a rest, you know. And everybody else was breaking these boards. When we all finished, they were still doing this, and she was still trying, and everybody got around her and started cheering her on, a little fire in her eye, and I swear to God, as I'm standing here, she went like that, and that board went crack. And it just went crack like that. Engineer me went and looked at the board, you know, and made sure. But she broke that board with nothing but her intention, and it was a thick, 1 inch thick pine board, nothing but her intention. That's an aside from this sort of, but it's on the same point. I want to point out intention is very, very important. Go ahead, back here, Will.
I had a interesting experience. I started out and shifted, and I was somewhere else sitting by a fire, and I could feel the fork heating up. But in the meanwhile, I had different parts of myself sort of shuttling in and out. Am I doing this? What's going on? trying to hide it under here in case I couldn't do it. That sort of shuttling back and forth between a deeper energetic connection and more ordinary. And I felt it heat up, so it felt hot in my hands. And then with a little bit of pressure, it bent easily this way. Then it started to go that way. And you see it's offset. And that was when I kind of shuttled back out to a performance kind of thing, and it stopped immediately.
It does stop.
That's
Because you shifted the energy within yourself, but you can work on this again
oh, sure.
and reconnect.
Bill?
If I can give you a laboratory add-on, back in the 70s, we did some analysis of a ring that Uri Geller had fractured, and also some spoons, and we separated them in a good metallurgical way and prepared them for electron microscopy, and we looked at them. The interesting thing was with the gold ring, it was no macroscopic deformation. Still looked perfectly circular, but it had just a crack through it. And when we looked at very high magnifications, we looked at the surfaces, and the surfaces were full of little micro voids, which is a characteristic of plastic deformation when there is large amounts of macroscopic deformation. But here was a circumstance where there was no macroscopic deformation, and yet the interface of the fracture had that behavior, which suggests indeed a kind of dematerialization phenomena was occurring. A similar sort of thing occurred in the forks and spoons and such.
Okay. Other questions? Anybody else have the experience of bending the spoons? Oh, back here to Beverly.
I found myself getting into almost like a trance state, and I was aware that my hands were feeling hot. And then there was also this other part of me that was kind of listening for instructions, because part of me thinks, there's no way I can bend a spoon. And so I think I started to bend it a little prematurely. When you started bend, I thought we were supposed to start working on it, and I thought to myself, nothing's happening. And then all of a sudden, this thing started bending, and I was so startled, I think I got myself out of this state. So it stopped here.
Let me interject, if I may, Beverly. I'm trying to remember the exact words you said, but it was like, I was doubting I could do this. Those were your words, but you said words to that effect, did you not? Okay. What is likely to happen when we start talking about surrogate muscle testing and intuitive diagnosis is you're likely to say to yourself, I doubt if I can do this. Okay, I'm only pointing that out to you because there's a parallel here. But if you just keep at it, like some of you didn't bend, many of you don't even have spoons, okay, and you didn't bend the spoon the first time, and you could say, oh well, I don't know how to do this, or whatever. You need to keep at it and keep trying. When you do the surrogate muscle testing and the intuitive diagnosis that tomorrow and the next day are going to unfold, you need to keep practicing, because sooner or later you're going to have an aha. Something is going to happen with that when you finally got yourself out of the way, and you're going to get some results that will really quite surprise you, and then you'll know you dipped into it. Okay, you just dipped into bending the spoon to your surprise. Okay, and the point I want to make to you is, for many of you, what we're going to teach here, you got to keep trying it until one day, bingo, to your surprise, what we were talking about is in fact very, 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 very real. Okay, so thank you for the comment. It allowed me to move over to this. Jackie, behind you there.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Here. I've done a lot of therapeutic touch, and so I'm real sensitive to energy, and I just want to know if anyone else was feeling in their fingertips a pulsating when we were saying bend.
Well, how many were? Can you raise your hands? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's
yeah. In
maybe
fact, I'm
20%.
still feeling it. It's kind of a residual thing. But I want to share with you, 2 years ago, as part of my master's program, I spent 8 weeks.
Excuse me, I want to share with you that a couple of months ago she had a fear of public speaking.
Anyway, I spent an 8-week independent, 8 weeks in Durham, North Carolina, at the Rhine Institute of Parapsychology, and we didn't actually do or try spoon bending, but the subject certainly came up. And the executive director, Richard Broughton, had been at a party some years before. And I have to share something about researchers in parapsychology. They are among the most skeptical in the world, and they have to be. But anyway, Richard had been at this party, and there was some spoon bending going on. And even having been part of this and seen it with his own eyes, he still didn't believe it happened. So I think that, I don't know, I think belief has a lot to do with it, certainly intention. And I think when research is being done in that realm, even though they are skeptical and they have to be, their intention, I think, has something to do with their results. It's kind of like mind over matter.
Sure.
Anyway.
And this is mind over metal.
Mind over, oh, there you go. One more question here, then we're going to go ahead.
It sounds to me, based on your descriptions, that it's really mind with matter or mind with metal, not necessarily over. It's something slightly different. It's mind with metal.
Okay. Do we have a hand from Marla? Thank you. Today is going to deal with muscle diagnostics via muscle testing, but not via muscle testing that is the more standard way, that is one-on-one muscle testing. This instead is going to be surrogate muscle testing, where we test ourselves as though we are the other person. But before I get into that, there's a couple other things. There's a conversation I need to have with you having to do with voice technology. Now, as many of you know, first of all, how many of you are familiar with the phrase voice technology? Okay. How many are not? How many just don't have no idea what that is? Okay. All right. Well, that's okay. For those who don't, what voice technology is Dr. Callahan's major secret that he has regarding how to diagnose someone by their voice. The concept is there's something about their voice that contains within it information that one can then diagnose and know whether or not they are psychologically reversed, know whether or not you need to tap here, someplace else, collarbone breathing, know if some substance is toxic to them, and so on and so forth. The idea being that is encapsulated in some fashion in the voice. The reason I bring it up, and as you know, most of you, I am the very first voice technology trainee. And I signed the papers in 1993. I have extensive experience with it. I know it inside and out. The agreements that I signed do not allow me to describe what it is, how it works, or anything. It's a huge secret. The only reason I bring it up is because there is some contrast. There is some perception and some ethical considerations that I have to bring up if I'm going to bring up something which I tell you I use instead of voice technology. And it's important for me to cover this with you, so without disclosing, what it really is and so on. So I cannot do that. I will ask you not to ask me what that is, okay? But there's some other issues that I need to cover so that what you're going to learn today will be in proper perspective. So I'd like to ask you a question. We're going to need the microphone. Or where are you? Okay. We're going to need the microphone around. I would like to have anybody just offer, what is your perception of what voice technology is? Anybody raise your hand. Okay, well, back here.
I use a variation of the PSC, the Psychological Stress Evaluator, which is developed by the CIA, and which picks up, stress fluctuations in the voice, and that's my understanding of it so far. But apparently he's got, I think he calls Fourier transforms that can pick up the specific algorithms that show up on his display.
Well, Fourier transforms is a term that he uses, and Fourier transforms is a rather sophisticated mathematical term. I don't see the connection myself, but yeah, yes, he uses it. Who else? What is your perception? What do you think it is? Back here to Nancy, please.
Well, the perception that I got from him is that when someone calls, he turns on his magic box, and this magic box evaluates the voice and spits out the exact hold-ons that will cure the whatever it is instantaneously.
Okay.
That's not been my experience with people who have...
Oh, well, wait a minute. Wait. Yep, stop. Okay. Because you're leading to something else. Your experience is he turns on the magic box.
Right.
Okay, and then it spits out the exact, say it again.
Hold-ons?
Okay. Finish the sentence. Say the sentence again. It spits out the exact hold-ons that...
will cure, his word, whatever it is,
okay.
instantly.
Does exact hold-ons mean proper order?
Proper order, right.
Okay. All right. How accurate is it? In your perception?
I've called him for supervision 4 times. With one person, it was very, very helpful. With 2 people, they never came back to see me, and they were very upset. And with one person, it just was not any help at all. But
2 people were upset because it didn't work?
There were personality issues
I
involved,
see.
too.
Okay.
But it did not work. It worked with 1 out of 4 people.
1 out of 4 people. Okay.
And it worked very well with the one.
Okay, good. Okay, over here with Carol.
You and I talked about this the other day, and my impression is that it may just be intuitive, something intuitive that he picks up on the phone.
Okay. I can't respond to that one way or the other, but thank you. Go ahead, back here to Bruce.
I'm TFT diagnostically trained.
Put the microphone down a little bit.
Yeah, I'm TFT diagnostically trained. I've used the VT voice technology support with Roger Callahan 5 times with 5 difficult patients, and all 5 were failures.
Oh, okay.
With the VT. With the VT was a failure of all 5. In other words, the hold-ons or the sequences that were diagnosed in each of those cases did not produce significant movement. I must admit that in terms of my speculation, which I've slept with it, I've dreamt it, wondering not only what it is, but how can I get $100,000 to learn what it is and have it? But I mean, that's totally beyond me and impossible. But the thing is, I can't honestly imagine what it is, because it works so fast. All it is 1 or 2 verbalizations, count 1, 2, 3, say I want to get over this problem, and immediately Dr. Callahan will rattle off a short or long list or lists of hold-ons. And he makes the point that it's not voice stress analysis, because he makes the point that the person already is in stress, that we know that the person is in stress when they're on the phone, with him. So I for the life of me, can't imagine what it is, but I believe it is a machine of some kind. I guess I vision it as some kind of black box. Some magic black box that came from another dimension.
Right. back here to Nancy.
In all 3 of the cases that failed, for which I called him, he determined that it was toxin related.
Okay. All right. All right. Hold on. So over here to Marie, I guess.
Yes, I took Roger's training last May in the diagnostic, and I've used the voice technology with him about 5 times with people that I got stuck with. And 4 out of the 5 times it made a dramatic difference. It made quite a difference. And the 5th time it didn't work at all. But I certainly would try it again. I mean, it's been helpful.
Well, Jack, here's one.
Well, your initial question was, what do you think it is? This is going to be a little technical, but I think it's a frequency spectrum analyzer, because that's what the voice is basically made up of, and you can break down the components into frequencies and amplitudes. I can't imagine what else would come over a telephone that you could work with. So if there's anything there, it's a frequency spectrum analyzer, and somehow the power spectra tell him something about where to tap and whether answers are true or false when you ask them.
Okay. Have you had experience with support in it, like calling Roger, that kind of thing? Or?
Yes.
Okay, and with what result?
I'd have to agree with Bruce. I didn't get much results. It boiled down to, well,
you've got the energy toxins here, and it's wheat, and it's dairy, and it's corn, and so forth, and the poor woman would have to eat rice the rest of her life, and she refused to do that, so that was not successful.
Okay. Okay, back here with Will. Will, just describe it. How has it been used, and what have been the results, and what can you say about it?
Well, I went through the standard TFT diagnostic training procedure, so for just about a year I've been using it, just the way you said. If after I get stuck in a particularly difficult situation, then I have the client and I call Roger and use the voice technology to get a sequence, which in the more difficult situations is usually sometimes 2 or 3 pages long, so that the tapping would go on for quite some time.
2 or 3 pages?
Sometimes.
Did you get results?
Yes.
Every time?
Most every time, yeah. Every time it seemed to improve. However, now this is the problem. By the way, I just want to say I appreciate the opportunity for us to talk about this. So as we're in this ground floor of really energy work, I think, and Meridian's
ground floor of a healing high-rise, Will.
Yeah, yeah. This is sort of a family secret. And I understand there need to be boundaries and so on, and yet I think it's very useful for me just for us to be able to talk about this. I thought about bringing it up yesterday, and I thought, well, maybe this is some secret that Gary doesn't want to talk about.
Well, it is a secret I will not talk about because I've signed papers otherwise, but this conversation is useful because I am telling you something that I use instead of it.
Yes.
And it does not put out irrefutable, precise, godlike routine.
Right.
It gives you very useful directions in which to go.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I use it instead of voice technology, and I find it just as good, if not better. Okay.
The other piece that I was going to say that's difficult is that I find that people very often need to find different sequences so they can find the stream of energy that's effective for them. And when the sequence is even a paragraph long, much less a page, it's very difficult to practice. I find that then they would go home with this list, however, whether it was a paragraph or a page or 2 or whatever, and they'd say, yes, it was very helpful, and now I'm depressed again. Well, did you use the sequence? Well, I tried it one time, and I was too depressed to try it anymore. So, like, the more precise it is, the easier it is to practice as a sequence.
Yeah. Something I'd point out to you, when you have a sequence that's 2 or 3 pages long, that what you're really doing is tapping all over the energy system.
Yeah,
okay.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, if you do it long enough, you cover everything twice.
I would suggest to you that doing 2 or 3 rounds, if you really needed that much, of EFT, using all the points, would be just as effective as whatever 2 or 3 pages is.
Well, this is what I discovered as I began when I heard about this sandwich. And,
I have used voice technology. Well, I haven't used it for the last couple of years, but for years prior to that, with more people than I can count. And I have never come up with 2 or 3 pages. I've never come up with 1 page. I think the most I've ever come up with is 7 or 8 points, maybe 10. I don't know at the most, but typically it's 2, 3, 4, 1, 5, something like that.
Yeah.
So, that's another subject. But anyway, who else has voice technology? Stephanie here.
Well, Will and I trained at the same time, and also I worked with Roger myself personally on issues, and I won't repeat what Will said because it's been my experience too, and I found voice technology helpful for me personally.
For you personally?
Significantly, yes.
What percentage of the time did it work every single time?
It worked every time but 1.
Every time but 1?
Yes.
Okay. Out of how many times approximately?
Probably, that's a good question. 25, 30 times.
Oh, okay.
It was really useful in discovering toxins. And I was very particularly intrigued about finding out what was this anxiety that would come up out of nowhere when nothing in my life had changed. And being a hypnotherapist as well, I believed it was subconscious and was working on that level. But I also found out it was toxins, big time. and very helpful in my migraine headaches. In fact, I don't have migraine headaches anymore. And I've had them since I was 6. So that's a big damn deal.
Oh, sure. That's a big damn deal. You got it. One more, and then I want to go on. Why don't you ask Gary here?
I have no experience with Roger, but I have laid in bed at night trying to save myself $100 grand. So, and from more of a meridian perspective, I do know that all the meridians relate to different colors. Colors are frequencies. Your voice is a frequency, and I do think that intuitively you can probably pick up what frequency, what color is missing in your voice spectrum or whatever you want to call it, and just kind of hone into that. And I'm not sure what he does, but
I want to pick up on one of the phrases that you said. I think intuitively you can pick up on the colors. Da 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 da. That's what we're going to do. Okay. That's what the next 2 days are about. Bill Tiller had a comment.
I just want to add a sidebar relative to the telephone and sound. If you keep yourself locked into a 4-space perspective, then that's all you have.
Meaning the 3 dimensions of
space and one of
time.
time. But in fact, if you allow yourself to adopt a higher dimensional perspective of the universe, then human intention, which really functions, and I'll show you this afternoon, the next domain coupled to this space-time domain is a reciprocal domain. It in fact is a frequency domain without limitations of space and time. And in fact then using the telephone and using your voice as a vehicle for your intentionality, then you indeed can influence things thousands of miles away in very specific ways. But it's a learned thing. You have to develop a structure within self to be able to do it. So there is a larger perspective is all I'm trying to say.
Okay, good. And that will plug in nicely to what how we're going to unfold this. All right, I wanted to bring this discussion, in front of us all for this reason. People will call me and they will say, Gary, I have this client. The therapist will call me and say, Gary, I have this client that I can't do anything with. Will you turn your machine on as though I now have this absolute magic, and I'll turn this thing on, and absolutely objectively, we will spit out precise, irrefutable things to do that is going to cure them where nothing else can. Okay? And it just isn't that way. Okay? And so those of you who have called me in the past, I will tell you that don't really expect that. It's very useful. I'm glad I took it. It has been of an enormous help to me in allowing me to do a lot of things that I couldn't have done before. But it does not spit out absolutely precise, irrefutable algorithms, tapping points, routines, etc. It is fallible, folks. Okay, let me tell you. And you've seen around the room, while there was some notable and impressive things that it does, you've also seen there's been some miserable failures and so on. It's subject to all of those. Yeah, we have a question here.
What does it help you do that you couldn't do before?
The same thing what you're going to learn in the next 2 days does, and that is it lets me know where I am in the process. Okay. Now it's a good question. Thank you, because I want to launch for the moment and talk for a little bit about yesterday when we talked about mechanical. It was what I call mechanical EFT. That's what you've learned from the EFT tapes. It's not just mechanical. There's an art to delivering it in aspects and so on, as you know. But as I was developing the comprehensive algorithm, EFT, what I would do when I was dealing with people on the phone, I would say, well, I think you could do the exact same thing, but just using the comprehensive algorithm. I would say that to myself. So I would just talk them through the comprehensive algorithm, and I would get the same percentage results with or without voice technology. I would have a few cases that didn't work so well, and I have a few cases that work superbly, just like you would do in person with someone, like all of you have experienced, okay? I was missing in that the ability to, quote, know where I am in the process, but I'm still getting the result. It is my view that if you walked out of this seminar at the moment and took what you learned yesterday, a little more elegance in how to do it, you don't have to have diagnosis. It isn't absolutely necessary to have. You get very good results without even bothering with it. Okay? What you're here for is if you want to become the ultimate therapist, you're going to need to know how to know where you are better than what you're doing. It's a way to not only know where you might want to tap, but it's a way to have you know when you're done. Okay? At least done for now. And it gives a way to know whether or not you should be using EMDR here or using some other technique. It's a way to tune in and know at a level that you need to develop, which will be very useful for you, for the more difficult cases. Okay, but anyway, I want to make that point to you. Now, one of the problems I have, and another reason why I'm mentioning this, is I have an ethical consideration, because when people call me with the assumption that I've got some godlike thing involved here, I have on the one hand agreements that I have signed which I'm going to honor about secrecy of it. On the other hand, I'm not about to sit there and tell somebody it's a godlike thing when it ain't, okay? And it isn't. As you walk around the room here, you found that it is fallible. It is not something that spits out irrefutable, precise, algorithms that you need to genuflect towards, What is more important than that is the art of delivery, better stated, the ability to be a detective and find the real issue. As you probe around and ask questions and bubble up to the surface the issues you really want to tap on. A lot of times you'll be tapping on the peripheral issues and not the real core issue. Voice technology, or what we're going to learn here, is not going to tell you how to do that. That's more the art of it. Okay? The places where voice technology failed, as we discussed around here, I would be willing to bet you that if there was more probing done and more detective work done and we had found the real issue, if you will, that we would have had success where voice technology, quote, failed. Same is true of what you're going to learn here. Okay? Now, did I pop your bubble? I didn't? No. I thought people would say, oh my God. Because, see, I am not going to teach you something that is absolutely infallible. It's going to be a skill that you will learn. It is a skill that I have not learned. It is a skill that I am still learning. And 10 years from now, I will still be learning. It is one we get better and better and better and better at. And actually, in a way, even though I have not perfected this, I don't think anybody is going to perfect what we're doing here. There will always be some little chinks in it. You'll just get better and better and better at it. Once you have, as you get better and better and better at it, you're going to be able to trust your own intuitive sense, which you already know at some level has a lot of validity. And you're going to be able to trust it more and more and more, and the ways you go about with your clients are going to be enhanced and enhanced and enhanced, and you are going to get better results with more people as a result of that.